Welcome everybody to the December 7th architecture meeting. Let me drop the link in to the chat. Normally, well, no, I want to say normally, we just started to do the Emporous folks first, but with the holidays and everything like that, it doesn't surprise me that Alex is not able to make it.
We should probably acknowledge Sasha in the attendees. There he is. Cool.
Thought I got him. And then on the Ortelius side, so I've been working on pulling together the front end and a couple back end microservices and a cron job for loading in vulnerabilities from OSV dev into our Rango database. So first time I'm trying a cron job in Kubernetes, and we'll see how it goes on that front. But so the Helm charts, hopefully by the end of today, will be all sorted out to work so you can actually run everything locally in Kind. So working on Kind on that front for my testing. And that's actually working pretty good so far. Not too many services, so hang on, gotta get the puppy. He's being a pain. Okay, program. I'll eat my cord now. So the Sasha, we should be able to then once we have this the Helm chart, it's the same format as our current version, where we have the parent chart and all the subcharts on that front. We are going to be running an Nginx reverse proxy like we did before. Just makes the reverse proxying to all the microservices easy. And then the ingress part, whether depending on which cluster, if you're going into AWS or Google or Kind or Rancher K3S, the ingress will change, and that will give us the right ingress to be able to connect up. The one thing I have not put into the cluster is Rango yet. I'm just running Rango externally and as a Docker image. What's that one networking tool, Sasha, that we can maybe set up a network so I can share my Rango with everybody? Was it
The zero tier.
Zero tier? Okay.
Yeah.
I kept on thinking Zero Stack, and I went to look up Zero Stack, and I got all this weird stuff about headphone drivers. I'm like, I know that's not it. So zero tier. And
No.
I think we'll be able to set up zero tier so I can share my a Rango database with everybody on that front to make it
Yeah, that's very
easy.
cool.
So, and even my cluster, but I do a lot of updates and restarts to the cluster side. The Rango side is pretty stable on that front. Some of the other things that I've been able to kind of figure out is I've been able to figure out the commands to pull an SBOM from a Docker image. So what is it? The build kit, the Docker build kit can generate an SBOM and basically store it as a layer in the Docker image. And also the provenance can be done the same way, basically in the same command. So I've been able to figure out how to pull that information out of the Docker images, which is a good thing. So what that means is we don't have to necessarily be hooked into the CI/CD pipeline. So if somebody enables the attestation for the SBOM and Providence, that the data in those JSON files will give us a like the git commit, the repo, all the SBOM information, so we can have like a passive scanning of projects then, at least for Docker to start with. I think we could do the same thing, similar for like a node package or a Golang package, that type of thing. But I just got to do some more research on that front, starting with Docker, since it was the easy starting point at that level. So I think, Sasha, I think we would be able to pass off to you the Helm charts to work with Pulumi when you have a chance on that front. And like I said, we'll have to, I think we should take a look at the zero tier for sharing the database, and probably the I have another PC here, an old PC. I can actually stand up a kind cluster, and we can kind of share a demo environment of the new version. And I can go out and just manually update that, maybe once a week or whatever. When we have a good cut of something, I can go out and manually update that for now to share everything. That was
Uh,
the main stuff I had. I was going to pass it over to you, Arvin. What do you have on your list that you've been working on?
for the like cluster, I have created my AWS account 2 days ago. So I have a lot of resources in the free trial. Can we use anything from that?
Yeah, yeah. The Helm charts have in there the ingress setup for using the AWS load balancer. So basically what I've seen is all the cloud providers have a load balancer that you can sit in front of Kubernetes. AWS is a little weird to set up, because you have these weird like subnets and IP masks and stuff like that you have to associate with your load balancer. But once I'll send a message out on Discord, letting everybody know that it's that the Helm charts are good to go to be able to download and start playing with. And again, we'll have to figure out the database part with zero tier, because I think, do you know if an AWS cluster can talk to zero tier?
You could do that. You'd have to
Oh.
expose an endpoint publicly.
On your zero tier?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Does that need a static IP address, or how does that exposing
They
work?
all, so the private IPs never change. You always get the same one on that node. So you install an agent on there, it keeps that IP always the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And you can decide how you want to. It is going to be a little bit of a learning thing, because you have to use their policy thing, which is I still have to get my head around it a bit.
Yeah.
But you can do all of that. You can expose an endpoint.
Okay, cool. Because that would be the only other part. The other thing we could look at is moving the Arango into as another basically stateful set in the cluster with a volume mount, and we could run it that way. But when we do that, the data wouldn't be shared. Everybody would have their own standalone database. And it's kind of nice to share the data, so it's a lot less work for people to get up and going.
Yeah, exactly. You can build an entire Ortelius on a like a private network around the world.
Yeah.
And you can just control who has access to that. There's an administrator, which would be you, but it's only to a maximum of 25 people for free. And there's only one administrator, which would be you, Steve.
Yeah.
And then we would install the node, the little agent. It works on Mac, Linux, and Windows. and then you have to approve that node. Yeah,
And is
that
that
agent.
25 people defined or 25 people actually accessing?
No, it's yeah. So if I install the agent and you approve it, that's one gone. That's one down. So
Okay.
whether they're approved or not. So if you needed to free up people, you would just untick their in the management interface. You just untick their agent, and then that'll give you back your your amount back to your 25.
Yeah.
And of course, so can we use GeoTribe with Raspberry Pi?
Use which service?
Raspberry Pi.
I'm not familiar with that one.
What's it called? I couldn't hear.
Here, drop the link in chat,
Uh,
Arvind.
I've used two others, but I found Zero Tier to be the best.
Yeah.
There's Tailscale and there's another one, but by far Zero Tier was the best to use, the easiest,
Right.
most secure. And, yeah, in terms of security, seems pretty rock solid.
Yeah, it'd be
just drop the
Raspberry Pi. But Evan, are you talking about putting a Raspberry Pi on the network, or are you talking about using Raspberry Pi as no.
using Raspberry Pi with the so we can like
Hmm?
set up any local cloud on the bare.
well
Well,
that's yeah,
that's what Zero Tier is. It's all of us connected. So I can run like Steve just said now, he can run his kind cluster in Santa Fe and we can all access it. I could run another version of Ortelius and you could all access it. Just using a private IP. Like if we get a
Oh.
192.168.15. Whatever, and my IP is .15.26, Steve could hit that IP with DNS and he could access it directly because he's on the same 010 network as me.
right. Right.
It's like
Oh.
having a LAN, right? It's like we
Got
at each other's
it.
homes, inside each other's in a company together with a LAN with network cables going from a switch into our
Yeah.
computers. It's the same story. It's just done through the internet.
Yeah.
No difference. Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
It's all
Then,
end-to-end
yeah,
encrypted.
Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
Yeah, what the I'll have to look into what we need to do to stand that up and give it a go. On the Raspberry Pi front, I knew there's a guy that used to work at Oracle. He'd go to the trade shows and bring like 200 Raspberry Pis and do a Kubernetes cluster with all these lights
200.
flashing, showing the workload being distributed across all the nodes. So
Jeez.
it was a marketing gimmick.
Totally.
But having
Yeah.
200 Raspberry Pis in your Kubernetes cluster is pretty funky.
You could put 200 on the 010 network and we could all access it. So there's nothing stopping you. Yeah,
Well, wouldn't that be 200 licenses though?
exactly. Because you
Yeah,
have 200 agents.
right.
So what you would do is you would just put your load balancer on only, and then you could hit it internally. Like
Right.
that. Yeah.
I wonder what the pricing is on the 0 tier. Look.
You just gotta get clever, like how you yeah.
Also, we have to use Terraform also because Pulumi is not currently supporting the Kubernetes manifest file. It is only supporting the Helm till now.
And which one's that is only
So
supporting?
we like they are not. We can't run any manifest file using Pulumi command.
Right. Well, it looks
So
like on this,
we cannot use the Helm chart.
right, and that's what we'll have is the Helm charts for now. And I know Kat was working on the Pulumi for Kind and K3S. Her company was missing those types of
Resources.
yeah, resources or cloud definitions in their definition for Pulumi, and that's what she was working on. So hopefully that will be published soon and we can kind of leverage that on that front.
Yeah.
Arvin, have you had a chance to work on your issue with adding the open telemetry to the environment?
Not yet.
Okay.
I did record a talk, but it doesn't contain a demo. I will probably do it later because I have my semester exam from 12.
Okay. No hurry. Just curious where we're at on that.
Yeah, I will do that part after my exam, and I will also like start working converting to pull on Pulumi code
All right, cool. All right. That
because
was
I have used Pulumi a lot.
yeah, just I know there's a couple other folks working on some issues. So we're just trying to pull everything together here. Do we want to have another meeting before the end of the year, or should we just wait until the first week of January?
I
Because the
don't
next
mind.
one 2 weeks out would be what would it be, 21st?
I think you're
I don't
really
mind.
gonna have lost a lot of people by then, Steve.
That's what I'm thinking too. So I think the next meeting that we'll have for architecture will be that in January. Let me see what the data on that is. So it'll be the 4th, which will actually work out pretty well. So let's go ahead and that was the main thing. I just want to bring everybody up to speed on where we're at on the getting kind of like our it's not pretty, but you know, the pieces together, get started with on the Helm charts and getting stuff just basically running. We'll take a look at the 0 tier to see if we can use that to share the database. And then Arvin, when you get a chance after your exams and stuff, take a look at that issue for adding open telemetry to an environment at that level. And then
I can share my screen very quickly, Steve,
yep,
to show you
go.
guys after you finish talking. Sorry, just want to show you.
And then the last thing I have is just that our next meeting will be January 4th. So over to you, Sasha.
And
Yeah. Let me just share quickly. Yeah. Screen.
in the meantime, which tracing UI to use? The Zipkin or Vivo?
Can you see? Can you guys? Is
Yep.
everyone seeing the screen?
Yep.
Okay, so
Yeah.
0 tier. It's my network ID. Okay, so that's my network. They assign me this route. I can choose if I want to. I could choose my own one, but I'm not really fussy.
Yeah.
Okay. There's my search domain and my DNS server internally. Okay. I'll show you all the clients. Here's one of my developers, another developer. There's my PostgreSQL node. And here's my entire Kubernetes setup. There's my machine. If I untick this, I will disconnect myself.
Does each node in Kubernetes have to be an agent then?
If I want to manage it, yes. Like if I want to SSH onto the box, right? Then I would need to add an agent so I can access it at this IP address, you know.
But if we
But you
have
don't.
if we have
But
an
if you just had a load
ingress,
balancer, if you just exactly, if you just have an ingress, then you only need I don't know how you would, because the ingress is built into Kubernetes, which is running across 3 nodes. So you're going to need to have those 3 nodes. Unless you had one node only connected, then you could save on a license, right? As long as that node is up, you could always access it, right? On the ingress, because the ingress, I'm assuming, is a pod, right? Or part of the control.
I think it's at the control plane. Yeah.
Yeah. So the control plane needs to be accessible. in some way. So you could put a load balancer in front of that. Then you only put the agent on the load balancer if you wanted to
Got
do
it.
it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, for example,
yeah,
yeah,
because I can make, because we could use Nginx as a load balancer.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
and so I have a Linux box. For example, I could stand up Nginx and have it route the traffic for the
Yeah,
Orango database as well as the backend, the Kubernetes
exactly.
cluster.
Exactly. And then you would save on running agents, and you would save on that 25 limit on
Yeah.
the free edition. Yeah. Yeah.
And then
You can do, there's
and
the
then
networking rules.
when
Huh?
people go to add themselves, I take it you just look at a network ID or something, and they use that network ID to connect.
I'll show you. So my network ID, like I showed you there, right?
Yeah.
Let me go to my 0 tier. Yeah. So if I want to add a node, 0 tier, you have to use sudo 0 tier CLI join, and there's my network ID, and that's it, done.
Yeah. Cool.
Once you've installed the agent.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then it'll pop up here, right, without a tick on it. So Steve, you would go and tick this, and then say, you basically, when you tick that, you're saying you're like you know that node, you know who that is,
Yep.
and you
Right.
allow them
Right.
on. If you don't, they'll appear here, but as soon as as long as that's not ticked, they won't be able to do anything.
Got it.
And they'll always have the same IP here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've
Cool.
got a K3 6-node cluster, three control planes and 3 workers running
Right.
on here with a Postgres backend. Yeah. These are all separate VMs. Yeah.
So Postgres is a separate VM there.
Yeah. And it's running my Kubernetes database. I got rid of what's that other one? I don't know. Can't remember what it's called out of my head now. But what I like about it is that all the nodes, I know it's a point of failure, but all of them have access to the database at a central point now, right? Which
Right.
is quite cool. But then again, it does add complexity because now you'd have to cluster your PostgreSQL now. So maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's not the best way to go.
Well, for right now, for what we need to do,
It's
just
etcd will be fine, right? Etcd, yeah.
yeah, and for what we're doing right now, running an unclustered Orango is not a big deal. I mean,
Mhm.
for just a development environment, if we lose the database, we lose the database, and we just have to bring it back up.
And then I've got a private registry called Harbor. You can put the container images in there, so everybody can access the container images locally without having to
Yep.
go to Docker and then get rate limited.
Right.
Yeah. So Ortelius could be stored in a open source Harbor container registry, private registry for people to pull locally.
Yeah.
In a sense, locally, but across the internet, but locally on this private network, right?
Yeah. Well, we
Yeah.
get around the rate limiting by using Quay.
Yeah, okay, that's true. Yeah, I use Quay. Yeah.
Quay that's one of the things I like
And
about Quay. It's a little more stable and
It's more user friendly,
yeah.
open source friendly.
Yeah,
uh,
Arvin.
And then you've
can we
sorry, then
use Ortelius as a doc? Go ahead, Sasha.
no, you're
Yeah,
saying, what are
go
you
ahead,
saying?
Sasha. I will talk. Can we use Ortelius as a Docker desktop extension?
Use
With
Ortelius.
this?
Like if Kubernetes, yeah, as a Docker extension. So if the Kubernetes is enabled for the Docker desktop, our extensions will directly take out all the Kubernetes clusters and enable it.
Well, that's where Kind would come into play. That's what I run. Well, I don't run the Kubernetes desktop. I run the Docker desktop, and then I start a Kind cluster running inside a Docker, which gives me my Kubernetes cluster then. So I don't use the built-in Kubernetes into Docker. I always start kind on my own because I like to shut it down when I'm not save resources.
Yeah, and this is the policy
Yeah,
engine that you can use to control your network traffic, right? It's like it's super powerful, this thing. You can do any of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it, eh? So they got this flow rules, right? They call it flow rules.
Yeah.
You can shape the traffic the way you want it, to which ports. It gives you complete control. But yeah, like I said, it is a bit of extra overhead in learning because you got to understand, you got to start learning the syntax here, right?
Yeah.
Here's some example on the side, right? Rules, and then you've got you can specify your the ether type or whatever. Yeah, you can
Cool.
do all kinds of things with it. Yeah.
Well, we'll just need the basics, and I'll take a look at trying to get this to work because I can. Will it if you run two agents within the same network, can you still build a zero-tier network? So, for example, if I take Tracy's Windows machine and my Linux box and my Mac, can I build those three into a zero-tier
Yeah,
network? Okay.
yeah, totally. I've got
It-
two Macs. Oh, they're both on the same zero-tier network. I can talk
okay.
to them through the zero-tier if I really wanted to.
Yeah. That's why I was curious if it only worked when you went outside of your local network.
I'll tell you what it works great for, Steve, is parent support, IT support. No more team viewer, right?
Yeah, you go jump right
You go
into the
direct. Yep,
remote desktop their machine,
exactly.
take over.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just want to show you guys, this thing's so powerful, man. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
Cool.
that's good.
Sasa, are you, how is the HF proxy work is going that you are currently working on?
What's that? Sorry, the sound is quite muffled.
The the HF proxy and the traffic dashboard work that you are working on.
Your proxying piece with
Oh,
HA proxy.
yeah, I was practicing with HA proxy, but I had to stop. I've had to stop my development on my environment because I'm building that environment that Steve and I worked on with the diagram. I'm building that entire architecture using zero-tier to teach people in my company, but I haven't carried on yet because I had to finish this glue project for a client using Jenkins. Sorry, that's not my favorite. So much coding overhead. But
Uh,
I'm going to carry on. But I'm actually thinking of getting rid of HA proxy and just using traffic. Yeah, it's one less moving piece, right?
Yeah,
Because
traffic's pretty powerful. So
it's damn powerful, but it's just taking me a while to understand. Thanks to other day, Steve, I got the dashboard up. The dashboard's working perfect now.
cool.
Yeah, that's where I'm
But
at. I'm at the traffic portion, configuring services to work through traffic. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But this zero tier works
I
amazing, man.
also
I can SSH to any box anytime, and I'm actually load balancing them between two networks. I'm using zero tier network and I'm using WireGuard on another network. If the one falls over, I can go to the other one and works perfect. Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
All right, cool.
and
Anybody?
cool.
I also say I also share the link in the chat.
Okay,
Can
thanks,
we use
Govind.
that you won't use this anywhere? The QLAN.
Q-line.
Uh, for the current scenario, we can use it in YAML file for the data validation.
Very
Oh,
cool.
nice. I'll have to keep that and bookmark that one.
To put that in the pantry.
Yep. Cool. Anybody else
Cool.
have anything else we need to cover?
No, no, I'm just glad I could show you that just so you can get an idea.
Yep.
Because sometimes it's not always easy to know if you don't see it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Uh trying to get your head wrapped around how everything works can be pretty challenging.
Yeah. But also people gotta be comfortable enough to like say, oh, it's okay to have that agent on, right? You can just disable it, right? If you don't want people to have access, if you don't want to have access
Right.
to be on the network, you just stop the agent, right? Or you actually have to stop the agent. You can just disconnect. So when you want to go on, you click on. If you want to go off, you just turn it off.
Yeah.
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 If you're worried about your privacy and obviously, right?
Right. Exactly. All right. Cool. So our next meeting will be January 4th. Doesn't mean you get off the hook from working on stuff. Just means you get more time because we have less meetings. So, and we'll see everybody tomorrow for the beer and donuts and the Visionary Summit.
Cool. See you then.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers,
See
Steve.
ya.
Cheers, Alvin.